So instead of the occultist, we can look at the cultist.
Oh, those aren't the same people.
No.
No.
Yeah, so when I got that email, I was like, oh, wow, that's a drastic redesign for...
Oops, where are we? So yeah, basically there's a faction of enemies that are shared across all the dungeons. They're kind of running around stirring up the pot on your family plot. And they're cultists. So there's a male guy, he's like a brawler, and then there's a woman spellcaster kind of character. But they're dressed the same because they're basically intent on bringing about the horribleness. So I'm just working on, for every character I gotta do a whole bunch of different poses, so I'm just working on her injure/dodge pose right now.
Hey, Chris, I got a question.
Yeah.
On the cultist guy, is that a nipple or is that a band-aid?
It's just meant to be a nipple. I didn't want to get too titillating. If you... I was up at 4:45 this morning with a sick kid, and that's why I didn't want to stream today. I have no interest in talking because I'm going to sound like an idiot.
That's okay. We can talk.
All right.
Well, we got talked down.
Well, we got people talking to us, such as...
So let me give the preamble that worked last week too. Is for all you streamers,
that's us
attendees. Yeah,
it's them.
Questions about more than just the art are definitely welcome. We'll entertain questions about such things as, for example, design. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's you have Keir, the programmer, you got Brooks, the animator, you got me here, and we're also willing to answer questions about life and philosophy. So
speak for yourself.
You got a question? Serve it up. Put it at the stop. Question bus will pick it up.
We got like a comment question from Talthul. I'm probably not saying that right. A female enemy? Nice. Is this our first female enemy?
No, we've had others.
The skeleton captain?
The skeleton captain. Plot twist. We have an old hag. So, there's that. And
Jesse's online. He asked a question. He says,
first Jesse question.
Hey, Chris, has seeing Brooks' work with your character changed the way you produce it in any way?
Not so much. One of my favorite things about Brooks is that he works around what I was already doing.
Yes.
So I had to change almost nothing. There was talk of change. There was rumblings of change. But it just didn't pan out. So
I didn't want you to change because what you draw is awesome, and it's kind of my job to sort of figure out where to go from there. I don't want to like slow you down or have to make unreasonable demands on your process because you have that that whole workflow, everything nailed down, and you can crank these guys out pretty fast. So.
And really, I consider any demand or suggestion to be unreasonable, given that I'm a flighty artist. So
that's right. Can you put him in a neutral T pose so that I can? Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of other places that animate using, cut up 2D assets will do a lot of like limb popping. So they'll, if this is her arm here. Then there'll be another pose of it for the actual animation. Let's say, I don't know, drawn out this way or something, and then they'll pop in the middle of the animation. I think Jesse does a fair amount of that, if I'm not mistaken, but we don't really do too much of that stuff. It's kind of more just animating what's there. Like, I don't do a whole lot of alternate poses, and like you're like, I need the elbow bent at 30 degrees or whatever.
Well, and to be like our animation set is basically like a regular idle, a walk, and a combat idle for the heroes, and then for the monsters, it's just the combat idle. I mean, that's not including effects and other stuff, but just for the characters. So there's not a wide range of movement. I guess the walk being the exception of that for the pose that you're delivering. Although we did have a long back and forth about walks for like a month until you sort of drew these little 4 poses out, and you're like, "How about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's gonna work." And then yeah, but we honestly, that was probably the biggest sort of animation hurdle we sort of had to overcome, was that. So
we got our first stabbing related question.
Okay.
Crafting?
It's already.
Oh, here. Okay.
Is that a special dagger, or is it just for stabby? Ask Coach Opo.
Well, it's kind of like a wand dagger. It's a wagger. So she'll be able to cast spells with it and also stab people in the face. Having said that, I don't have a stab people in the face pose yet, so maybe we can...
Yeah, we'll probably need one for when she gets pulled up close.
Yeah, otherwise it should be useless. Or we just do effects.
She could clock him in the head with the top of it. It's kind of like a little mace too. But the stabby's cool.
Got a question specifically for Tyler.
Yeah.
What's the answer to the question of life?
Get your
MBA.
MBA.
It's complicated.
it depends if you've read Hitchhikers or not.
Yeah. Someone already got that answer.
Oh, was there that in there? Okay.
Yeah.
There's something here about Tilthul wants to know about the conflict synergy mechanic. Can a specific Hellion develop a relationship with a specific huntsman or whatever, for instance?
Energy mechanic? Oh, synergy mechanic.
Yeah, like we talked about, okay, they can be sort of friendly with each other.
Yeah, I think it's something we want to explore, but we don't have it completely figured out yet. I mean, we definitely want to... Like, there's always been a difference in our heads between the class and the instance. Meaning, yeah, there's lots of houndsmen, but, you know, this is Joe the houndsman or whatever. And so we would like to create some sort of bonds between the characters because it's more meaningful than if someone's in peril. So it's more stressful to that character if their buddy is close to death than if just some person this is the first mission they've ever been on with. So I think that's the first step that we'll be doing is kind of playing with the stress response based on kind of your affinities, and then so the more missions you do with a certain character, then the more affinity you build with them, and then we'd like to eventually go further than that in terms of kind of paying off, like through the barking, like them commenting about each other, and we, you know, it's not gonna go as far as say like Baldur's Gate, where, you know, the pre-written characters have all these pre-written dialogue trees with each other. It's not like that, but it's more like you should definitely be able to tell that, hey, this Vestal and this Crusader have been, you know, battle buddies for a while, and if one of them dies, it's going to really upset the other quite a bit.
Yeah, we should mention that like all our instances of the characters or all that you recruit are separate. So like when you upgrade weapons and armor for a character, you're not doing it for the class as a whole. You're just doing it for that particular character that you've named or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something, because I think, you know, we've done a good job of like you designing the characters and stuff, and so sometimes I know people get confused on like...
yeah, is there like one of each, you know?
Yeah,
that's
is it like, you know... But no, it's they're still classes. They're still kind of like, you know, roles that you then can have multiples of. So you might have 6 Crusaders in your barn if you want to, but
you can name them after your favorite male role models, friends and family, and then watch as horrible things happen to them. Yeah.
We got a very polite question.
Okay.
From the KGB. And that's a pretty good name, but that's like a B that's cagey, not like...
I was going to say, politeness is not usually their hallmark.
Yeah. Not trying to start beef, just sincerely curious, which is how it opens, which I think is very polite. In regards to the Vestal and Arbalist, why boob plate?
Yeah, I don't take beef with that. I did a little bit of research, and they've made armor that sculpted out the chest, so it's definitely happened.
Yeah,
we did it. We did it to ourselves, you know. in history, they made armor that way. And why did I choose that particular armor? For those two classes, they're both plate mail classes, and given the lack of, I don't know, I mean, I guess this is the only character that has any kind of cleavage in the whole game as of right now, but given how sort of like asexually a lot of the characters are treated, like it makes no difference from a game design standpoint if they're a man or a woman or anything like that. And even from their appearance, they're all pretty buttoned up, you know, especially the heroes. So I just felt like it was a good way of reminding you that they were women, especially scaled down to that small size, and it reads well, and it also adds mass to the chest, which is typically, you know, subconsciously we respond to that as a sort of center of power. So adding mass to the chest on a plate mail character whose job it is to take damage felt like, you know, was reasonable and not, you know, just done with salacious intent, I guess. It's the same thing with this character. She's in cloth and she's showing a bit of skin precisely because I want her to be a little unnerving and off-putting compared, like feel a little bit out of place because, you know, psychologically she's coming from a different headspace than anybody normally should. That was the rationale anyway.
Cool. Good old Rio Bucks has a question. Are there the type of enemies who self-harm to spellcast, so you have to decide if you defend and let them off themselves or go on the attack before they do something too powerful?
Self-arm, did you say?
Self-harm.
Self-harm.
Oh.
Somebody like stabs themselves and has like poison blood or something like that.
It's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Should write that down.
She has a knife.
Is the question? Yeah.
Are there self-harming enemies that do that to damage other people?
It's something we actually, yeah, it has come up. I think we were talking about that this past week about the idea of, somebody basically trading hit points for more powerful attack. So it could definitely find its way in there. I mean, it's the kind of side effect that I think is cool to add. So I don't think we have anyone yet, but we've definitely talked about that being an interesting sort of. Well, actually, we have other ones that kind of like we've talked about ones that explode or that kind of thing. So I guess that falls into that category.
It's been on the table.
Yeah, and I think like we probably only have like maybe 20 to 25% of the monsters designed so far in terms of like what they do gameplay wise, and the rest are still, there's either loose notes or ideas, and so but we're still like well under half in terms of what we've actually committed to paper and are actually functioning in the game. So yeah, the cool thing about that is we're constantly thinking of ideas and then trying to, from an implementation standpoint, sometimes we try to make sure there's more than one guy that would maybe use this abilities, and then it would make more sense to do it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of times we have to implement the enemies that we have the sort of systems already built for, and then kind of dream about the other ones. And then when that dream hits critical mass, and we're like, well, no, 3 enemies could use it, but all in a different way, then it's like, then it's worth coding, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we got our, every stream we get a question about a cult. And we got our first cult question of the day. Something Crow's always been wondering about a cult. Who makes their wardrobes? Are they contracted outside the Darkest Dungeon, or do they have like home economics masters?
It's awesome. I love the question. It is funny to think about, like, you know, every once in a while they have meetings and someone's got to be like, look, guys, I hate to keep bringing this up, but we look like a bunch of ragtag idiots out there with no universal costume. If we could just all spend a little bit of time putting a costume together, we'd be way more impressive.
Fucking Frank never pays his membership dues to the cult, you know, so it's like no one really wants to order bulk jerseys until they collect all the money.
Yeah. It's like, I really want a headpiece. Well, when you come up with your dues, we'll see about that.
I like the idea that the person who starts the cult just looks so rad that everybody who joins dresses like them.
Dresses like them, yeah.
Like if Prince started a cult, I'd imagine everybody would look kind of like Prince.
Yeah. Well, for these guys, the whole game is obviously, you know, really stress-centric, and like our little, I think I talked a bit about this last time, but our little torch kind of logo, it's got the iron halo thing, which is kind of what we use to represent stress, but it also has a broader meaning in sort of the story of the game, so that's why these guys are wearing this headpiece. It's not just because I like skulls, but it's meant to suggest something a little bit more.
We also use that symbol to represent difficulty in the quest select.
We do. The more pips, the harder it is.
Well, we have the same symbol in some of the effects and stuff like that. That's sort of, so we have like sort of a common effects language and a common sort of visual language going on.
So we got a question from Drop Zone Toe. Will we see heroes get too many afflictions or failing to get what they need to in town, and be so demoralized that they leave your stable? I
was just going to say, I think it's more like someone might become a shattered shell of a human being, and you might just have to just get rid of them. I think taking someone away off your roster is not something we want to do, but the fact is someone might spiral out of control. They might just have so many negative quirks, and those quirks might contradict their class so strongly that it's just a horrible combination, and you just have to be like, all right, you know, out with them, let's recruit someone new.
It was funny, I was working on...
It's tough to be the boss, man. It's hard to lay people off, but sometimes you gotta do it.
I was working on the activities for the tavern, and what happens when the activity finishes, like some of the side effects. And I didn't speak to Tyler, but he had listed MIA. So without checking with him, I just kind of coded it so they'll just go missing for a visit or two.
Are you serious? You get back to town and like your go-to guy is just like not around?
Yeah. Well,
I wanted to get an ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, you sent like he went to the brothel, and then like you don't hear from him for a couple.
He went out for a pack of smokes. Never came
back.
home.
And, you know, you're just like, wow, that must have been quite a trip.
And his stress is gone.
Yeah.
Happens that, and same thing with the other activities. I mean, like drinking really makes sense. It's like he went out for one drink, and then 3 days later he shows up ragged and
so sorry.
Yeah.
That was weird echo to come.
Weird echo, yeah.
No.
So we got a suggestion. Depression Core says if all the people that a character cares about dies, they should have All My Friends Are Dead quirk.
Oh,
that's cool. That's cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Or if he's a lone survivor, that would be a nice alternative to just plain lone survivor quirk. Would be yeah.
Lone survivor is what you get if you're okay with it. Like, I honor my dead friends, but I'm ready to move on with my life, and all my friends are dead is what you get when you're just like, fuck this, fuck everything, everyone died. I'm super
or if everybody dies in a funny way. Because that children's book is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, we got a real technical question coming your way.
All right.
Via the Crow. Will the stronger bosses adapt to different party makeups, or will they be designed to adapt to different party makeups? In the interest of preventing too much min-maxing.
I think it's actually the reverse. I mean, I think it's more like the bosses are going to be, good at different things and have different abilities, and that is part of it's more about the player challenge of adapting to the bosses, honestly. And yes, that means they're exploitable, but that's kind of the point is like you might learn that, okay, if I'm going down into the Weald, it tends to be these are the types of bosses that I'll see, and they tend to do this, and so I'm going to construct a party to to try to counteract that. And that's really the philosophies of the dungeons too, is learning kind of what the dominant traits are in each dungeon and trying to construct parties to conquer that. And so like we want you, as one of our philosophies is, we don't want you to pick a party of 4 and just get, the traditional RPGs, like going back, old school style, is you make your party and you spend a lot of time building that party, and that's your party for the whole game, like the 15, 40, 60 hour experience. In this case, we want you more, like, you can see it in all the systems. Like, you go down with this group of 4 guys, and then one of them might freak out, and you get back to town, and you're like, well, Bob's got to go drinking. We need to put someone else in, and you see, oh, there's a cool quest in a different region instead of the crypts. There's a cool one over in the woods. All right, the woods has lots of poisoning creatures. All right, I'm going to keep the plague doctor, but I'm going to dump this character and swap this one in. Oh, you know what? I've been meaning to get this guy more experience. I'm going to put him in. So the bosses, this is all just like philosophy of the design, and so the bosses ties into that, where rather than have the bosses kind of detect what you came down with and then counter that, it's more about you trying to field a group to defeat that boss. I mean, in a way, it's like you can go back to Mega Man or something and be like, all right, fighting this boss with this gun or this weapon was really, really hard, but if you go over here and get this weapon first and fight that boss, it's way easier. It's a similar thing.
Cool. Got a good Kojipo question. Can enemies bicker between themselves? Like a cultist saying, I want to sacrifice him to Thal.
No, interestingly enough, we haven't really thought about enemy barking at all yet, mainly because a lot of our enemies are weird things like spiders and amorphous blobs, and but we do have some humans. That'd be interesting. We probably won't.
We can do it. Like,
what's that?
It's not undo. Like, it's not.
No. And it might add some tension and interest as, like,
yeah,
have to bark.
I think it'd be funny if the spider or the the carrion crawler or whatever was actually talking. That would be stressful.
We did talk briefly about making the spiders like Hobbit style spiders, but they're very well spoken spiders, and describing their strategies and attacking you.
To be fair, one of us talked about that.
Okay. I think it may have. I proposed, a new creative direction for the game. It might have been swatted down. Maybe there should be a quirk where guys hallucinate, or like if they get hallucinogenic or whatever, then all the enemies are talking.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or he just talks to the enemies.
Yeah.
Outer cop.
Okay, we got a relationship question.
All right.
Can your characters start relationships with each other? I like sorry. Can your characters start relationships with each other like hooking up / going out?
Not really. It's not really like The Sims for dungeons. I think, like Tyler was saying, they will have like an affinity or maybe a dislike for each other, but that's as far as we're really going to go with it, I think. Maybe for Darkest Dungeon 2, we'll have the full dating sim model.
That pigeon game's doing it. We could do it.
What if you hired like 2 guys from the Stagecoach and they were already married or something, and then they had some quirk where they're like, "That's my husband, that's my wife," and they already had that sort of built in when you got them, instead of establishing it later.
I think Best Bud would be a little bit better.
What's that? Best Bud? Yeah.
Well, just because then it's like they look exactly the same. It's not they're the same class and.
So it's like 2 occultists that look exactly the same and love with each other. It's like some sort of narcissistic relationship.
You're the best. No, you are.
We should all practice self-love. I think. I mean, it's kind of funny because like when we started brainstorming on the game originally, I mean, there's so many places we could take the logical extension of what we want to do, and that's a great example of like a more simulationist because ultimately we are trying to get to the human experience of like why the human part has been left out of adventuring, but I think at this point that's one of those where it could become like this black hole that you go down, and so I think if we can get to the affinity, sort of, if we can get the affinity in there, then you can actually sort of bring your own interpretation to that. I mean, if two characters have the highest level of affinity for each other, I mean, that is a relationship of sorts. Of course, we're not simulating it, and they don't go back and, rent a house together and these sorts of things. But
then you can't furnish that house that they rented.
Yeah, you can't furnish it and then go, get a mustache and increase your.
I like that's your honeymoon is like getting a mustache.
Tyler had an amazing honeymoon.
Yeah, just thinking back to when Fable, is coming out and people are writing strategy. Okay, this is what you do. You marry the person, then you immediately do this, this, and this. Then you kill them. Then it's like, all right, that's just weird. But no, I mean, I think drilling down, like one of the neat things about what we're doing with Darkest Dungeon, I feel like is we ask you to kind of use your own brain for a lot of it. I mean, even the animations, are like, they're not crazy, like rotoscoped, etc. I mean, like fluid. Everything we're doing is like, we believe in your ability as the player to put a little bit of your own brain into the experience. And I think classic games did that really well. And, we're seeing a resurgence of classic games that don't necessarily spend all their time trying to connect what you can connect in your brain. So without getting too philosophical, I guess I feel like if there's super high affinity between characters, you're going to create your own narrative about that. And then when things are happening in the dungeon, you're going to be like, no, not...
Kojabo.
Yeah. And you might write a little fan fiction on the side.
Yeah, we love the fan fiction.
Yeah. We got a couple cultist questions.
Yeah, I moved on because she's done, and I don't think people need to see me save and export it to Brooks.
And the gargoyle's super cool.
Yes, he is.
Do these cultists drop those helms as loot? Because I really want one, and it's cursed, so be it. Sometimes you have to sacrifice to look awesome. You're not going to be able to put the cultist helmet on your head.
No, but you might be able to have it as like a trinket in the trinket slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might drop as loot, and that's a great idea. And by that I mean crowdsourced design. But
yeah, we don't have cosmetics, appearing on your characters just because of like the fact that we have a very, very small team and it's not 3D, and it would require so much just art horsepower that I don't possess.
Yeah.
We'd never ship the game. It would be like coming 2017 and I'd be drawing hats and mustaches for like 3 years for no money. And it's not exactly how I want to live out the remaining years of my 30s.
You're already counting it. And it wouldn't be a live stream if we didn't answer an exclusive class question.
All right, let's do it.
Can we just vote her as the exclusive class, the occultist, right now because she looks badass in the group?
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
We could throw that up there as one of the options, yeah.
Which we'll eventually get to.
Like a former cultist or whatever.
That is actually because we were talking about it being kind of.
You're in town in the fucking bar, and she just kind of comes out of the cave and like makes her way down. You're like, what is going on here? Everybody get ready. She's like, yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm ready to change sides.
Yeah.
I'll keep my helmet.
It'd be sweet if you did have her in your party and then, she's gone, and she took a couple people with her to join her cult.
She was like a sleeper agent.
Maybe she could convince other people. Like, it'd be great if there was a talking spider. I'd love to have a talking spider as part of the party.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, it's just all the enemies. Just choose an enemy.
And there's other possibilities there too. I mean, without having formally confirmed it, should user-created content ever be supported, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that could happen. You could have a party full of gargoyles.
Yeah.
Could make a dating sim. Who knows?
Yeah. And should we ever sell as well as the Russian off-roading heavy construction vehicle sim? All those things will be very possible.
If we get to the point like where we're just stupid successful and we can talk ourselves into doing a sequel in 3D, but like shaded with a line art like shader, then we can do customization stuff way more easily. But that's like 18 ifs layered on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no way you'd go the customized 2D art style.
Well, we just need more artists, right?
Well, no, but you could do like the flash animation, for lack of a better term, and everybody's the same body, and
Or you could do like simple 3D models and then have textures that are basically in this style.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be very curious to try that actually, but
I think
not
it'd
that
be
I have
cool.
time to do so.
Yeah, like I said, we'll try it in 2072.
Yeah. I'll be 112.
You'll be ready to go, though. Think of how good you'll be after all that practice.
I'll put my 10,000 hours in by then, I think.
Malcolm Gladwell can suck it.
Wow. Brooks,
question about Quest.
What's that?
you're not that old.
Question about Quest.
We're not going to go there, are we? It's somebody's birthday tomorrow.
I know. Well, I'll be 98.
Tyler's turning 18.
Oh.
Lock up your Goldschlager.
He's moving out of his pants house.
setting up dating accounts.
Finally legal.
You can buy liquor for the team now.
I can't wait to graduate high school. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, God, don't remind me. I'm too old to be making gargoyles.
Kier, do the next question.
Okay, Tyler. Hopefully this will change your mind. Will the dungeon quests have different rewards based on different outcomes? Example, better or worse rewards for not bringing a specific class or not having any casualties.
Good
idea.
Well, we've talked a lot in the original days about your efficiency of like completing the dungeon being important. I don't know exactly, like, we don't want to turn it into like a crazy like dungeon quest story or something, but yes, like, and I don't think we'd key it to like what classes, other than the Darkest Dungeon does have some class specific stuff going on, but I don't want to get too much into that, because that's, in general, we try to not talk too much about the Darkest Dungeon, other than just whetting everyone's appetite a little bit.
I thought that was a standard rule. I thought that was like the first rule.
Yeah,
which
the
we're
first
talking
rule.
about the Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah,
what's the Darkest Dungeon? Just kidding. But efficiency, yes. Like, so I think it's that's something we want to explore. But the biggest deal is we want to incentivize you to finish the quest, but torment you with the risk of finishing it. So if you're like have a guy almost dead, and but you want to complete the quest because then you'll get the full rewards, or do you retreat back to town and heal this person? That's kind of want you in that uncomfortable state. But yeah, we've talked about like, look, you did this really well. For lack of a better term, like, hey, great job, A+ rating. But I'm not sure. Like, we don't want to turn it too gamey either. So I think
it's a fine line between like, yeah, having that reward really spelled out, because it feels good when it's like, you did gold. But also it's kind of neat to be like talking to people who are also playing the same game and not realizing that, like Dark Souls is so good for that. Like, oh, you did what? That happened to you there? That's weird. It didn't happen to me. And, sometimes when you overgame it, you lose that sense of kind of wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think your efficiency will be obvious, because it's, if you finish the quest, all 4 characters alive and not too stressed out, and got a bunch of loot, it's that is the reward. And if you limped in and a guy died and you didn't get that much loot, and everyone else needs to take a trip to the Abbey, that's kind of obvious. But the other thing with there's a lot of bad things that happen to you in Darkest Dungeon, and it's not always your fault. Sometimes it is, and we don't want to create too much of like we're never going to have leaderboards, for example.
Never.
That's just not something that we don't want you going like, oh, my friend plays Darkest Dungeon slightly better than me. Like that's not the point at all. We want you to embrace the challenges, and it's your own narrative, and you can swap stories, but you never have to be like, he got 1,000 points more than me. It's not that game at all.
I think if anything, we want to like revel and get people to share their like worst dungeon runs, or the stories of their epic failures.
Like a failure board. He plays Darkest Dungeon the worst.
Yeah. Isn't that what life is? Just a big failure board.
Big failure board.
I'm going up to the failure board in the sky.
What is that?
What's
It's
that?
a gargoyle.
So I just drawing a nipple there.
Somebody was giving me grief about the X near his nipple, so I made it clear that it was a nipple.
He has an X nipple? Oh.
No, he doesn't. I just do the Chris
I kinda
Bourassa
like
thing, like, oh, he got like, I don't know, just
It's a scar.
Yes,
this little scar, kind of, Yeah, like I can't even. It's just shorthand for like he's a little beat up. Like, see, look at this guy. He's got 2 of them. Hey.
You got third nipples.
There's all these art tricks that.
Well, just
See, and
eats
then
up the white space, right? Like if it's got lots of white space, it looks clean, and clean is associated in your head with like healthy, right? So if you want him to look weathered and beat up, you just throw a few chicken scratch lines on there and call it.
Those are all the kind of questions I ask Chris when he delivers the art to me. I'm like, what is that?
Don't worry about it.
What's that X?
Just spit the X as he's animating. Just rotate it.
Yeah.
Tyler. Hello, Tyler.
I'm here. I was muting so I could type. Okay, yes?
You consider yourself a businessman, correct?
Is this a trap?
No, it's a question from Shadowman.
Okay.
Any ideas on how you're distributing the game, such as Steam, Good Old Games, Humble Store, once it's completed? He's probably going to ask after that, can I pre-order the game?
Why, yes, he can.
Where can you pre-order the game?
We're gonna distribute it at every taco truck and tamale shop between here and
where, Tyler?
everywhere.
And where?
And where?
And what? Like Edmonton? There's like 2 of them.
Or the Origin Taco Shop? Or the Uplay
every
Taco
taco
Shop?
truck in Canada will be carrying our game.
So the taco truck in Canada will be carrying it.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously we've announced Steam. We love Steam. We support Steam. It's not the only thing we love.
Steam sale right now.
I love bourbon also. Yeah, Steam sale. You can get the game on Steam sale right this moment. No, you can't. But yeah, and I think we've announced like Humble will definitely be fulfilling via Humble Store as well. And we definitely are looking at all those other options. We've had some really good conversations with other storefronts, and we just don't have anything to confirm. But I mean, rest assured, our goal is to put it on as many places as we can to reach. Because I know everyone has their favorite stores that they shop on and shop at, and our goal is to make the game available for you. So sometimes there's just a little bit of like, sometimes it's not worth certain stores if they're either too much work to get set up or not enough volume. But really, we want you to be able to buy the game. So I will say though that Steam features are pretty cool and still, at the moment, best in class, although there's a lot of awesome stuff happening with GOG and stuff like that. I see lots of good momentum there. And, we've talked about user-created content, and that will probably come in the way of Steam Workshop. Doesn't mean it can't come on other platforms as well. Oh, yeah, and there's other platforms we're looking at, too, which we have had a series of discussions about. And so it's definitely not something we're not on our mind. So we're excited to kind of bring the game every way that we can to reach as many people as we can. That sounded like a really generic answer, but...
You got the taco stuff in there.
Okay, good.
To keep the taco quota up for our streams.
I think tacos have been mentioned every stream, have they not?
Have they?
I think so.
Guys should go to La Casita downtown. It's really good. I'm just saying.
So that place by VFS?
No, that's the taqueria.
Went there. It's okay.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Succubus?
See, okay, that's an interesting question, especially given the question about the boob plate. I think that it's something that we probably want to sidestep. I don't think there's anything really sexy about Darkest Dungeon. Like the art style, it doesn't lend itself to like really attractive characters, people, men, women. So I think a succubus or like a siren class, the real beautiful kind of seductive type of thing, I just don't think it'd land. I don't think that the art style lends itself to something that's like physically appealing or attractive in that way. So I think that's something we'd probably just leave off and let the sort of D&Ds and the like a fantasy setting that has a bit more cleavage on the reg can deliver that, I think, better than we can.
Yeah, we've talked about like a siren, but mainly because of the mechanic of like, you know, a siren could call out and then call your back row people to the front, which would create all manner of problems. But I'm sure if we choose to do that character, we can do it in a way that isn't necessarily like a half-naked mermaid, you know.
Yeah. It could be like a
Combing her
treasure
hair.
siren, like a diamond, like a treasure siren. Like if it was a bunch of treasure that could call to people to bring them closer.
Oh yeah, that's true. And also, there's something creepier about, like, if the siren was really weird looking, then and had this weird, creepy sound, that is more effective, I think.
It's more interesting too, because it's like, okay, well, yeah, a hawk girl told me to come over, so I went over. It's like, whoa, big plot twist in the Darkest Dungeon. Whereas if it's like this pile of ooze told me to come over, and I couldn't help but go over and check it out, that's a little bit more unnerving, you know.
This pile of treasure was just calling to me.
Yeah. Yeah, an alluring plant where you're like, why, Tyler, quit digging in the dirt? And he's like, no, this plant is super awesome. Like, that's a little bit more unsettling. He's gone plant bonkers.
Plant pheromones.
Yeah.
Good old pheromones. So in the interest of adding art asset creation, are there mounts?
Mounts?
Well,
like in an MMO?
We've created... Brooks has solved this problem technically with hotspots on each character, so you can have characters ride around on top of other characters. And then that way you can get...
They just crawl on all fours, like kind of like...
You can get 8 characters in the party by having characters ride around on each character, but
yeah,
their skills change when you join them up.
Yeah. The Voltron set.
That's awful. Yeah. We don't really have any distances to cover, so mounts really aren't.
Well, I guess the closest thing would be the Houndmaster, maybe. He's got a dog.
I mean, he can. Do you ride your dog downtown instead of taking the train?
Yes, I do. He's like Marmaduke. He's like 6 foot at the shoulder.
Good Marmaduke.
Yeah.
Marmaduke's one of those.
Well, I was thinking it's something like in terms of like maybe not a mount, but like a pet would be closest thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can keep them in your trinket slot.
Do we is there another stream scheduled for at 5?
I don't know. Let me just check.
If not, it is.
Well, because if so, we should get up and make sure to clear the channel for them.
Got a question about lances. I don't know if they're in the game.
Oh, lances? No, I don't think we have a lancing character. Maybe we could throw that out as one of the voting options.
Yeah.
The Hellions got the big glaive.
Yeah.
Be cool to have a trident, like a trident lance.
Yeah.
I thought that the Skeleton Spearman fully upgraded variant would be the Skeleton Lancer.
That's cool, yeah.
It could be kind of a javelin or a big spear, you know, whatever.
A lancer enemy would be sweet, because he readies his attack and then moves up through the ranks each turn.
Mm-hmm.
Riding a skeletal horse.
With another skeletal horse in his trinket slot.
It would be cool if he was back row. He can only launch from the back row, and then he jumps forward and hits all 4 heroes, and then he has to spend like 2 turns to get back to the back row again.
Yeah, ends up in the front. That's cool.
Yeah, I like it.
I also think it'd be cool if like the high end Bone Defender guy, like, you couldn't crowd control him, like, at the very top end of his power scale or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like this hand at all.
What animal did you choose to influence the face of this gargoyle?
Dog. There's a lot of,
Was
like,
it easy? You already knew how to draw dogs after the dog enemy?
No, dude, I'm terrible at drawing animals. Because I don't particularly care for them. But, a lot of the mythology around gargoyles and even ghouls and stuff is always refers to, like, canine features. Which is weird, because dogs are supposed to be man's best friend, and then we just make them into devils and put them on churches.
Aren't they trying to watch the evil spirits and keep them away or something?
They are, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They're actually supposed to protect the place they're built on.
Got another question. It's an old one. Any idea how many adventures will be available to grab when you start a fresh game? And would it have presets or be totally random? I like the idea of starting and just having 2 grave robbers, a leper, and a merchant.
That's kind of awesome. We have there's a little bit kind of like a prequel, what's the word I'm looking for? And kind of an intro where you will like have the basics of a party probably somewhat preset, but I mean, those basics are just the very bare minimum, and the first thing you'll do is try to recruit more. And we're playing around with what classes will be available and maybe changing it up so certain classes become available earlier in different people's games. A little bit of randomness there just to kind of create some interest. But we kind of need to make sure that there's at least a viable first party of a couple front rank, some mid rank, and back rank people. Just we don't want to have people accidentally get a horrible draw. But really, the first few characters you start with is inconsequential in the long term, especially if you're wanting to outfit your own kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, it looks like there's somebody on deck for 5 o'clock.
Okay, let's get out.
Yep, so again, sorry about the streaming issues. We're going to get those fixed up, because I definitely want to kick back and have Brooks...
Yeah, I'll animate next
stream.
week for sure.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll sort everything out.
Yeah, but thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, it's awesome. The hour goes by so fast. It's really fun. Thanks for attending.
Bye.